Hello everyone, this is Rosemary and I'm here to show you 5 embellished envelopes. I think you remember this one where I made the tutorial on how I designed this one. I just added a little bling to it just for fun. Another little stamp image right there. This is the back. You can have a lot of fun with your embellished envelopes, and this is some napkin. I like playing with napkin. Seems to be a little bit more forgiving for me. And the flap was a continuation of the front. I've added a butterfly that helps with the closure. And this was, had been playing with my stamps on tissue paper, and so these images are stamped onto tissue paper, and I used it as a lining for the inside of the envelope there. Just, if you're going to decorate, if you're going to embellish, you might as well go all the way, I guess. So again, this was just a continuation. There you see how the butterfly acts as a closure. And the whole part of it is just a very pretty embellished envelope. Well, I entered a swap because I just like to challenge myself when I do these swaps. And this is an envelope here. And I used a napkin decoupage. And here's another quote. There is beauty in simplicity. And if you saw my previous video, I was stamping quotes on tissue paper, and that's what you can kind of see there. If I wanted it to blend a little bit more, I could use a little distress ink. I added a butterfly sticker. So this is one of those that I just wanted to make kind of this style, and I did it by folding up a book page and added a little trim with some napkin, another butterfly, which is really just covering a little mistake I made when the napkin lifted a little bit earlier. It lifted up and left a little gap there, which the perfectionist in me said a butterfly will help. I probably am going to do a little bit of stamping here on the back, but this was made from a book page. So I continued, and this is again another book page that I just kind of folded into thirds. I think this is about a 4.5 inch by maybe about 7 inches, and this is all napkin decoupage. I had this package of napkins I got kind of on sale at Tuesday morning, and this is the closure of the piece of the napkin right there. I made it into a separate almost tuck spot, and you can see right there the book page, and it acts as a closure. And you can see I think I just glued some lace around the flap right there. I added a butterfly and a bee right here, and I did some stitching around it. This was one of the early ones I made, so you know, I figured out that these would be wonderful in the center of a signature. And here's my quote, and again you can see the tissue paper. I haven't gone over it with some distress ink, but it reads, "Life is the flower, love is the honey." So this is the flower and the honey. It's a wonderfully romantic embellished envelope. So you turn it over, and you can see how the book page adds some interest to this napkin. And this was a butterfly that I used as a tuck spot. It was one of those butterflies I said, man, this is kind of a strange thing that they made. You know, it's kind of in flight, but just looked kind of weird. But anyway, it came in wonderfully well with what it's going to be used for in this envelope. And then I added another stamped sentiment here. You can see this one is blending in, and it has to do with the color of the color of the napkin. The world is so full of a number of things. I'm sure we should all be as happy as kings. So this is a tuck spot, and I made a journaling card from a leftover piece of paper. Just added a little piece of napkin, just a little edge right there. And then I had this vintage photo that I just think is so much fun, and I like to use it, and I had an extra floating around. And it is also part of it there, and you can see how it would fit into a pocket or a side-loading pocket. And if I had planned well enough ahead, I would say it'd be wonderful in the center of a signature. So this is your embellished envelope number 3. This is embellished envelope number 4. And this one is made from music paper. You can see right here. And this has a slit. You know how remember when we would put a envelope in the center and we put a slit in it? And this is what this is actually is, the closure. And there is some lace trim at the top, and I have to thank my friend Deborah for giving me this lace dress, and this is part of the sleeve. This bird was just this kind of small rectangle that I hadn't used, so I just put it on the edge of the envelope and said, oh, I don't know what I'm going to do on this other side. It was just a long piece. And here you can see the quote I put, "Nature never did betray the heart that loved her." And I could probably, it kind of blends in, but I could probably add a little bit more distress ink. But for the purposes of showing people this stamping on tissue paper, it's just very convenient, and you get a real nice effect without, worrying about it not stamping correctly. This is some bias tape or seam binding my friend Yvonne gave me, so I followed the directions of using distress ink and a heating tool. So thank you, Yvonne. Thank you, Deborah. I made such a difference. And then you turned it around. And this was, again, just, like I said, it was just the edging of napkin, so I used it. This is the other half of the napkin I used here on the flap. And this was also a stamp that I bought when people were getting rid of stamps, and it works. I'm sure it's really hard to put on paper. It doesn't come out as clear, but when you put it on tissue paper, you get so much more detail. And this lace forms a pocket where you could put tags, or maybe I could put another tiny little envelope, an envelope inside of an envelope. So this is embellished envelope number 4. And this time, yes, I left it open, and you can see this is a cover of a music book. But I think you would have to turn, I don't know, it kind of bothers me about the images being horizontal. But at the same time, I think it would work fine. It just depends on what you think. If this was an envelope and you put it in there, I guess it would work like that. And this is embellished envelope number 5. And there's a pocket up front here. And these were some pieces of scrap paper that I had left over. This is a 4 by 6 inch envelope, embellished envelope. So these were 4-inch strips that were floating around. And this is the back. And you can see there, you probably recognize this. The lining for the flap is from a receipt book, but it's one of the carbon copies. Most of the time we want to keep the original, and it's embellished, the flap is embellished with a flower and a button there. And you know how people are now just kind of tucking in and having the flap on the other side. So I do think this would be kind of fun. You know how you have a page and you just kind of put it like that. So this is really fun there. This pocket here, again, a piece from the dress that Deborah gave me, and some Tim Holtz pieces. And these are 3 tags I just stamped from leftover paper. I love to, that's how I get rid of all my paper, as I make tags. And now I'm going to say I embellish envelopes. Now, you notice I showed you this. This envelope, you've seen them, you receive them to pay your bills, and I know a lot of people pay their bills electronically. I don't, so I get this. Well, this envelope is the basis of this. It's a little bit wider than the one I use, but basically I used one of these business envelopes, and I folded it, covered it up, made a new flap. The doily is a totally new flap. I'm going to be making a tutorial because I think I have these, and I've always wanted to do something with this because this is junk mail and we make junk journals. So I really liked this effect, and it is 4x6, so I'm definitely planning on making a tutorial on this. As I said, this was from music paper, and basically music paper, this is, I don't know, I think this was close to 5x7. When I'm folding these, I'm just kind of measuring them. So I think 5x7, it's a little bit longer than I want. So I'm probably going to be folding it, making it a little bit shorter, more this size. And all I basically do is I fold it, and you can see the insides there that I use. I fold it in where I'm going to be trimming, and this is the flap, which might be shortened. I haven't quite decided, but this is the basis to this embellished envelope. This envelope here, the basis of that is this paper here. This came from a gardening book. I think it's one of these big green gardening books. And I'm going to say it's probably close to 9 by 8, 11 page. And what I did is I folded it. I take apart the book, or part of the book. It's a pretty big size book, and I really like this gardening book because it has so many images that make, when you put napkin decoupage, it makes it kind of interesting without too much effort. And this envelope also was made from the same book page. And so you can go to your thrift store, and you want to find kind of a largish book. So you go, and I really don't pay much more than $1. I hope for 50 cents, especially if I know I'm going to be tearing apart the book. But if I really want something because of the illustrations, I'll go up to $2 on it. But most of the time, $1 is my limit. And what you want to do, you don't want to get it too old, too vintagey of a book. You want to be able to fold it without the paper cracking. So, and so if it's a relatively new book, that's fine, because you're going to be covering your book page. You can cover it with scrap paper. I prefer napkin because I think napkin's a little bit more forgiving around when you make little errors. It's a softer media, so you can kind of blend it or cover the mistakes a little bit easier. So look for a book, and then you can fold it up, because you could fold it up into thirds like this. You can fold it to form one of these envelopes, and these are really easy to make. I think there's many tutorials on how you can fold them up. And I like to do them when I'm between projects. So these are my embellished envelopes. There's this one and this one made from book pages. I have this one that was made from a music page, and I have, where's the other one? This one that was made from that business envelope when you pay your bills. And this one was just made from I like to use the greeting cards. This was a greeting card envelope that I had used the card. And so you can use all kinds of things to create something really beautiful and fun and quite easy when you're between projects. So again, thank you for watching, and we'll see you again.